All right, in this next section, we are off and running. And what we are going to be doing is looking at graphing, and not just graphing of just a couple of things. We're going to look at graphing of a lot of things. So first off, let's look at the rectangular coordinate system. That's what we're going to be graphing in. An X and a Y coordinate system. Our quadrants are quadrant 1, 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, and the horizontal is called the x-axis and the vertical is called the y-axis. So let's plot a few points. This representation is always the x represented first and then the y second. If we're graphing in 3 dimensions, the next one would be z. So I go on the x-axis and go to -1, and then I go to 2 on the y. You'll be needing to do a few of these problems just to get you back in the swing of things. -1 on the x, I'm graphing b now. -1, -2, graphing c. These two are the ones that people tend to get confused, this one and this one. So I go 5 on the x, nowhere on the y. The D one says go nowhere on the x and then go 2 on the y. The E one, -5 and then -5. The F one, I go half on the x and then up 2. Kind of squishing into that one. All right, now we're going to do some real graphing. All right, I have a couple of problems up here. Let's look at this first one. The first one says the graph shown, so which one of these works? Well, if you'll remember your y, whoops, that's not a brush, y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope in rise over run, and then b is the y-intercept. All right, so if we can remember those from back a while ago, then that would help. And if you need a refresher on this, be sure and email me, and I can give you a refresher. I can hook you up with some materials that would give you a good refresher or something of that sort. Okay, so let's see what's going on. I can eliminate this guy right here because his y-intercept is 2, and that would be way up here. So you're out, bud. It's one of these two right here. And it's a little hard to tell on this graph because it's not tick marked. I think it's going to be B because I think that looks like it's crossing at -2 and not at -3 because I think it's right in there. I wish they would have put like lines on it to help me out a little bit. But let's just check the slope. This says it rises 2 and runs 3. So does this make sense that I'm sitting here and I go 1, 2, I rose 2 and then went 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, that's it. It is B. Let's play that same game here, knowing that my y-intercept is -3 and my slope is 1 over 3. So this is my rise over my run. Need a few little tick marks on here. I'll make those. 1, 2, 3. There's where my y-intercept is. There at -3. My slope is rise 1, run 1, 2, 3, then connect my dots, and that is graphing a line. This is, as you might remember, a linear equation. It's in that form y equals mx plus b, and those make lines. All right, we have 3 up here that are a little different. I want you to notice that this a is in this form y equals mx plus b, but my b in this case happens to be a 0. So for this one, b is 0, meaning that it crosses right here, and my slope is -1 over 3. So that means that it goes down 1 and runs 3. When I get finished with this, I always like to make sure that I had a negative slope for a line, meaning that if I read this thing from left to right, it's going downhill. And this one certainly is. And B and C are kind of two weird guys. Where is x equal to -1? Well, I know he's equal to where is he equal to 1? I know he's equal to 1 right here. So I know he's equal to 1 right there. Where else is equal to 1? Well, he's also equal to 1 right here, 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 here. Ah, this is one of those vertical lines. This is where x equals 1. Let's look and go somewhere where y is -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's where y is -5. Where else is he -5? He's also -5 here and here. Ah, when it's a y equals, it's one of those horizontal lines. When it's an x equals, it's one of those vertical lines. Sometimes the easy ones are hard. So we just have to know that if it's a plain x equals or a plain y equals, it's either going to be a horizontal or a vertical line, and it's up to us to figure out which one that is. They might ask you a few questions about, they'll give you like a few tables, and they'll say which one of these tables would fit this particular equation. So I'm just going to test and see which one works. We'll try A first. If x is 0, is y 6? I don't know. 2 times 0 minus 6. This would be 0 minus 6 would be equal to -6. No. If x is 0, y is -6, so you don't work, bud. Ooh, that one works. Oh, and that one works. Okay, so let's do the 1. And basically, once I get the 1, I'm done, because they differ from there. So y equals, I'm going to check my 1 right here, and I'm going to see what y is. 2 times 1 minus 6. That would equal 2 minus 6. It would equal -4. Looks like we have a winner. You don't work because that guy there. Okay. They're also going to have you graphing some quadratics. Now we do have a quadratics chapter, which will go into great detail in graphing quadratics, but I think this is just a little reminder. Plus we don't have to know what this looks like. All we have to do is just make a big enough XY table, plot the points, and find the pattern. I always like to start with 0. I usually do like 0 and then some positive numbers and then some negative numbers. So let's try 0. I'm going to plug in a 0. So that would be 2 times 0 squared minus 5. So this answer is -5. 0, -5. I'm going to draw that dot. 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll put that dot on there. Okay. Then I'm going to try 1. If x is 1, 2 times 1 squared minus 5 equals, that would be 2 minus 5. That's a -3. So let's put that on there. If x is 1, then y is 1, 2, 3, -3. Okay. Could look like a line. I know it's not going to because I know that quadratics make curves, or something with a square makes a curve, but still could because 2 dots there, but it's not going to be. 2 times 2 squared minus 5. That's 4 times 2 is 8, so this will be a 3. So if x is 2, y is 1, 2, 3. I'm going to draw this dot. You see this pattern of these dots here? Whoops. Looks like that. I'm going to go over into the negative side and see what I get. I'll try a -1. Careful here. 2 times -1, the whole thing squared, minus 5. The -1 times -1 is 1, times 2 is 2. Okay, so that's going to be -3. I'm going to draw that dot when x is -1. I will have -3. And if I follow the pattern here, when I go to do it for a -2, I'm going to find out that that answer is 3. You can crunch those if you'd like, and then I'll say, oh yeah, makes those beautiful little parabolas that I remember graphing a while back. Okay, so we're going to have to remember graphing those. It does help to just plot a bunch of points and then look for the patterns in that. We're going to look at x and y intercepts for a minute. want you to notice that we have this equation, 2x plus 3y equals 6. The x-intercept happens to be the place where line crosses the x-axis. Oops. This also happens to be the place where y equals 0, and that will help you find the x-intercept. So let's look at this x-intercept over here for just a minute. Notice, let's solve it. Let me get my other little pen. If I would like to know where the x-intercept is, I can just plop a 0 right in here for y, and I can say 2 times x plus 3 times 0. And notice all along that x-axis, y is always 0. So we're looking for the x value when y is 0. Oops, and I didn't copy down that equation, right? It's a 6. 6. And so then 3 times 0 is 0. So I have 2x equals 6. Therefore, x would be 3. And that would be my x-intercept. Not only would we like to find the x-intercept, we could find the y-intercept. And a lot of times that makes our graphing really easy. So if I write down my equation again, 2x plus 3y equals 6, and I want to know where the y-intercept is. Well, if it crosses the y-axis down through here, that means that x is 0. So I can just plop in a 0 for x, and I can find out where it crosses the y-axis. And here it happens to cross it 2, and you can verify that by looking at our graph over there. All right, there's a lot to this section, and it is supposed to be a review, and sometimes they cover a whole lot of information in just a little bit of time. So if you're needing some extra help with this, be sure and send me an email and let me know what I can do to help you. All right, and you guys have a great day. Thank y'all.